Hello everyone, my name is Min. Welcome to my channel, Min's Class. And if you like my class today, please subscribe to my channel and hit like button. Today is another class of IELTS Academic Task 1. And Academic Task 1 always talks about a graph. And today, we're going to follow these 4 arrows and find out the tactics and strategies to write a great Band 9 essay. Alright, let's begin. Number 1. So, what to cover today? We're going to cover strategy, structure, and actual essay practice. And as for strategy, a lot of people fail writing a great essay for IELTS writing because they don't have strategy and they don't have structure. Alright, so what are the strategies for writing a great IELTS essay? There are 5 steps to writing a good IELTS bar chart essay. And bar chart has these 2 axes. One is vertical and the other one is horizontal. And the vertical one always represent numbers or percentage, and the horizontal axis, this one, always represent years or time period. And we have multiple bar that represent a trend over a period of time. And there could be another bars to give it a comparison. All right. So, the 5 steps to writing a great essay. The first step is analyze the question. And number 2, identify the main features. So main features is the trend. And write an introduction and write an overview of features and write the details paragraphs, usually in 2 paragraphs. And most importantly, your objectives are: 1. Select the main features. 2. Write about the main features. And lastly, compare the main features. All right. Now, let's talk about the structure of our essay. Ideally, your essay should have 4 paragraphs. All right. Paragraph number 1 is an introduction paragraph, usually 1 to 2 sentences. And it always paraphrases the question sentence. And next, our paragraph number 2 is an overview of main features. And the next two paragraphs, paragraph 3 and paragraph 4, are the feature number 1 and supporting data with comparison. And you have to keep in mind that for the overview, never use actual number. Only talk about general features. All right. Now it's time to actually do a bar chart exercise. Okay, let's look at the question. The bar chart below shows the sector contributions to India's gross domestic product from 1960 to 2000. So we have some important information. First, we have bar chart. And we have sector contributions, and these sectors are: first, agriculture; 2, industry; and 3, services. And gross domestic product is overall money earned. So what we need to do is summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, so we need to analyze the question because we need to paraphrase this sentence. So we need to do a paraphrase. And we also need to fill in some of the missing information, such as percentage, representation, okay. And now step 2. So for step 2, we need to identify key features. So what are the trends? If you look at agriculture, so if you look at these agriculture, clearly there is a drop, and it happens steadily. So there is a steady decrease in the sector agriculture. And next, the contribution of the service sector showed a dramatic increase. So if you look at these, so these pink lines, we see a dramatic increase for services sector. And as for the middle, the industry sector, there has been slight increase. But from 1980 to 2000, the number didn't change at all, became static. Okay, so number 1, our main feature, the contribution of the agriculture sector dropped steadily. And number 2, the contribution of the service sector showed a dramatic increase. And lastly, industry remained static from 1980 to 2000. Okay? And next step. Now it's time to actually write our essay. So introduction is our paragraph 1. And in this paragraph, what we need to do is we need to paraphrase the question. And we need to do all of these. Use synonyms, change structure, if we can, add details from the graph. So the question is, the bar chart below shows, so this right here is the original question, and we're going to change that to this one. So instead of using bar chart, we use the word bar graph. And instead of using show, we use the word illustrate. And then we put this additional information. So we're going to use the relative percentage contribution made by the agriculture, industrial, and service sectors. So these are another addition of info from the graphs. The Indian economy, so this one is G, gross domestic product. Okay, so this is our first paragraph. Now, step number 4, we need to write an overview. So this one is the paragraph number 2. So what we need to do in this section, we need to report main features. And super important is we use only general information. So no specific data or number. But we also need to make comparison. In most cases, we get a data or graph that we can make some comparisons. And our main feature number 1 is the contribution of the agriculture sector dropped steadily. Okay, so in 1960, it was at 63%, and then in 1970, it was at 53%, and then 1980, 45%. So steadily decline, just like that. Okay, so the main feature 1 is for the agriculture, and the contribution of the service sector increased each decade. So we are talking about increase and decrease. So instead of talking about industry, we're going to talk about service sector. So in 1960, it was at 16%. In 1970, it was at 23%. However, in the year 2000, it was at 62%, exactly where agriculture was in the year 1960. So okay, and lastly, main feature 3, industry remained static from 1980 to 2000. So basically, the number for 1980, 1999, and 2000 for industry remained static, didn't change a bit. So didn't play a huge role in India's economy. And now, when we have everything put together, we have this paragraph. Over the whole time period, the contribution of agriculture declined steadily, while this word is very important. So while is a comparison. We can also say, on the other hand, that of the services sector grew dramatically decade by decade. A different pattern, okay? So we are talking about features, so trend, right? How something changed. So a different pattern emerged for industry, which initially showed, so initially, very important word because it replaces at first or in the beginning, showed a slow increase, but then flattened. Very important. From 1980 onwards. By using the word onwards, using the adjective, using the adverb, we don't have to talk about 2000 because it's self-explanatory. So that is our second paragraph. And let's move on to our final step. All right, so step 5, write the first detail paragraph. So paragraph 3 is about detailed explanation of main feature 1. And we need to use evidence to support key features with numbers. And we also need to make comparisons. Usually, when we have two main features, that we split them into paragraph 3 and paragraph 4. However, today we have 3 features, so usually we squeeze feature 1 and 2 into our paragraph 3, and we talk about our final feature in our last paragraph. So main feature 1 was the steady decline of agriculture sector, and feature number 2 was the dramatic increase of service sector for India's economy. Okay, so in 1960, whenever you use the year, you always need to put in. In 1960, agriculture contributed by far the highest percentage of GDP. So GDP is the gross domestic product. Peaking, very important verb. So peak, reach the highest point. Add, and when you use the word peak, you always use the preposition at with it. So peak at. So peak at, and you put number. But it then dropped in steady increments to a low of 12% in 2000. So that was our feature number 1. The service sector, on the other hand, very important, had a relatively minor impact on the economy in 1916. So another comparing word. Since we need to make comparisons where we can, it is important that we use words like relatively, on the other hand, while, in comparison. And this situation changed gradually at first, and then its percentage contribution jumping and from A to B between 1980 and 1990. And by 2000, so by the time it became 2000, it matched the high point reached by agriculture in 1960, showing a reversal in the overall trend. Okay, so that's our third paragraph. And finally, step 6, write the second detailed paragraph. And our paragraph 4 talks about the detailed explanation of main feature 3. And we're going to use the evidence to support key features and make comparisons. So, this right here, industry, remained static from 1980 to 2000. So, if you look at the middle one, right here, right here, right here, and right here, at first it started from 16, and then it reached 20, and then it was at 24% and remained at 24% for those 20 years. Okay, we're gonna talk about that. Industry remained a steady contributor to India's national wealth. So we've used GDP and economy, but we don't want to overuse those two words, so we're gonna use some other synonym, national wealth, throughout the period. And as a sector, it grew marginally. So marginally is the opposite of dramatically. So when the graph shows a slow increase or decrease, you can use the word marginally. From 16% in 1960 to 25%, they remained static for the next 2 decades, maintaining a constant share of the overall GDP. So that is our final paragraph. All right. So when you put everything together, we have our final essay that looks like this. Okay, so let's give it a final review, highlighting important words and phrases. The bar graph illustrates the relative percentage of contributions made by the agriculture, industrial, and service sectors to the Indian economy between A and B. Over the whole time period, the contribution of agriculture declined and steadily, while that of the services sector grew dramatically. So dramatically, decade by decade. A different pattern emerged for industry, which initially showed a slow increase, but then flattened from 1980 onwards. So now we had intro, and then we had overview. In 1960, agriculture contributed by far the highest, peaking at 62%. It then dropped in steady increments to a low of 12% in 2000. So even though agriculture was the highest contributor, by the year 2000, it became the lowest contributor. The service sector, on the other hand, had a relatively minor impact on the economy. This situation changed gradually at first. Then its percentage contribution jumped from 28% to 43%. and by 2000 it matched the high point reached by agriculture in 1960, showing a reversal. So agriculture, steady decline, service, increase. So exactly the reversal. So that's our detail number 1 and 2. And finally, our final paragraph. Industry remained a steady contributor to India's national wealth throughout the whole period from 1960 to 2000. As a sector, it grew marginally, so by a small number, from 16% in 1960 to 25%, and then remained static, which means flattened, for the next 2 decades. Okay? We can also replace this word with plateau, plateaued. It's a verb, so remained, we can say plateaued for the next 2 decades, maintaining a constant share of the overall GDP. And when we have finished that, our word count would be 189. And when you write it like this guarantees the score of band 9. Congratulations. All right. So, thank you so much for listening to my lecture today. Again, if you liked my lesson, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button for my next amazing videos. And don't forget to check my other lessons. Thank you. Bye-bye.